It doesn't matter how much you tell yourself, this is the month that things are going to happen for me. This month just feels so in alignment for me. This is my time. There is always that niggling fear at the back of your mind when you are struggling through infertility. That little voice that keeps saying, what if you're wrong? What if this cycle doesn't work? What if it does and you lose the pregnancy? What if you have to start all over again? Fear is such a powerful emotion and one that takes over in so many ways when you're trying to conceive. On today's episode, I want to walk you through a simple process for addressing fear and helping you move through it on this journey. Welcome to your journey to fertility. This is the podcast that blends science with spirit to give you all the tools you need as you navigate your fertility journey. I'm your host, Jennifer Edmonds, and for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. I believe that combining the latest scientific research along with the best energetic and mindset practices will help you to avoid putting your life on hold and bring you closer to your baby. Each week, you'll learn ways to support your fertility and trust your body so that you can stop stressing that you'll never have your baby and finally walk your path to motherhood. This is the Your Journey to Fertility podcast. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And this is a big topic. This is one that I get asked about all the time through DMs that I get, emails that I receive, through all of the conversations that I have with my students. And this particular episode was inspired by a conversation I had a few weeks ago with a student who was telling me that she is considering trying for her second baby, but she had a very difficult fertility journey to her first. It was a very long and protracted journey that involved many rounds of IVF, and then it was a very difficult traumatic pregnancy and birth as well. So there was a lot that she went through, and considering trying again has brought up so much fear in her body. And she's done all the talk therapy, and she's been able to rationalize that everything she went through doesn't mean that it's not going to happen again. And it's still a really difficult place to come out of when you've got that sense of fear that paralyzes you and that really, really takes over. You can do everything right. You can do everything perfectly on this journey, and things are still not going to work out the way that we hope that they would. So today I want to give you some strategies to help you move past a lot of that fear. And don't get me wrong, this is not about removing fear. I don't think it is possible to go through this journey, and especially when you have been trying for a long time or you're going down the path of IVF or fertility treatments where there is so much at stake. I think fear is always going to raise its ugly head. But there are ways that we can start to, this is going to sound really hippie of me, but befriend fear a little bit more than having it as this horrible, big, scary thing that's sort of lingering over us like a really dark cloud. So it's not about removing fear completely on your journey. Fear is your brain's way of trying to keep you safe, and we need to normalize this. And there are going to be things that come up every day, every week as you're trying to conceive, where you're going to be sitting in that energy of fear. But what I want you to really know is that you don't have to. You don't have to stay there, because it can really hold you back, especially when you have been on this journey for a long time and you've been through a lot of the trauma that this journey brings up. Fear can have a really huge and negative impact on your life, on your body, on your overall health. It can exhaust you. It can just make things so incredibly difficult. So it is something that we want to address. Whilst we can never get rid of it completely, there are ways that we can manage it. And I want to cover in this episode a few very science-based strategies, but also, and more importantly, if you are listening to this podcast, I know some more soulful or kind of spiritual ways that we can support ourselves as well. And we'll get to those more towards the end. So first of all, I want you to really understand fear when you are struggling through infertility. Just picture this. Imagine you are sitting down at the breakfast table, you've got your cup of coffee, and there is a deadly snake underneath the kitchen table. And you're just sitting there having your coffee, eating your breakfast, but there's this deadly snake under the table. You are not going to be able to sit there and enjoy yourself. You're going to be constantly stressing. You're going to be looking, is it near me? And what am I going to do? Do I need to run? And then you get into your car to drive to work and that snake is slithered into the back seat. And I'm having a physical reaction just thinking about this. You're driving along thinking, is it there? Is it going to get me? And then you go to bed at night. And you're like, is the snake under the bed? Like, this is a really ridiculous example, but as I'm saying all of these things, like, imagine if there was this huge threat following you around all day long. Like, you can feel this in your body. Fear is fear. And it doesn't matter if it is real or imagined, if there is the snake under the bed or some scary stranger following you in a dark alley, whatever it is scary. But as we know, our brains don't understand the difference between this imaginary snake and I'm just terrified that if I go through IVF again, it's all going to be for nothing. I'm terrified that if I get pregnant again, I'm just going to miscarry. I'm terrified that this is going to impact my relationship and it's going to have huge flow-on effect for our future. And like, this is all really terrifying stuff. And it's big, we don't talk about this enough. Fear is one of the things that holds us back more than anything else in this life. We don't like doing scary things. We like things to be comfortable and predictable. We like to control everything around us. Fear triggers our stress response. It means that once your brain has decided that there is something scary in your environment, all of those physical reactions start to happen. So we know that our cortisol levels start to increase. We produce adrenaline. We literally go into fight or flight. And, as I was saying, just thinking about the snake, I was getting agitated. I was looking around me. So it isn't something that we should take lightly and not something that we should ignore. Because as we know, this chronic state of stress has a really big impact on your hormonal health, on your body's ability to synchronize all of your reproductive hormones, which are so crucial for fertility. And I think that's all really important, really, really valid. But more importantly, I feel, is that being in this state of fear day after day, week after week, makes your life miserable. And that is the reason that I think we need to address it. And yes, you then get all of the flow-on benefits of it, being able to support your body on a physical level as well, once you are able to reduce your cortisol levels. But that is where I want you to start, because if you're not sitting in that state of fear all the time, what would be different? How would you be able to live your life a little bit differently? What would be easier for you? What would you be able to spend your time doing? What decisions would you make if you didn't have that constant cloud of fear just circling over you? I had another student tell me recently that she feels like for the last few months that she's just jumping at every tiny little noise around her. She's just constantly on edge, constantly hypervigilant. This goes deep on our fertility journeys. It's not just these little common fears that we're always worried about. Will this cycle work? Will it not? It's these really deep fears that we don't want to address. What if I never get my baby? What if I did leave it too late? What if I can do all these things? I can do everything perfectly, but it still doesn't happen for me. We also, if you've been on this journey for a long period of time, you'll know that it does start to affect your friendships. It affects all of the relationships around you. You think that you're going to lose your friends. You're going to be left out of those friendship circles that you've built for many, many years. I think that we fear a lot of judgment and a lot of pity from others as well, because people don't understand this journey if they haven't been through it themselves. So this fear of, being judged, and not in a way where people are, thinking that you've done anything wrong, but just the shame and the pity that comes with people's comments. And it makes you just not want to share and not want to have these conversations with people. I think fear of heartbreak is another really important one as well. We don't want to get our hopes up. We don't want to get our hearts broken again. And when you've been through cycle after cycle that hasn't been successful, or loss, that is something that comes up a lot. And lastly, the fear of doing something wrong. I struggled with this for such a long time. I had to do everything perfectly, or I would get so much anxiety about that one thing that I did wrong. And it, might have been something as silly as well, I went to bed late, or, I had a glass of champagne on the weekends, and that fear of doing something wrong that's going to affect your chances. So I think the very first thing that we need to do is normalize a lot of the fears that we're going through. And I think that we tend to judge ourselves a lot. Think, oh, I'm being silly. Why am I getting so worked up about that? I'm overreacting. But no, you're not, because it is a huge deal and one that is minimized by society around you. So I really, really want you to acknowledge the fears that you are going through and saying them out loud. This is not a fun exercise, but writing out all of your fears is actually a really powerful thing. And they can be big things, like I'm so scared that I'm never going to have my baby, or they can be little fears, like I mentioned, I'm scared that my friends are not going to get it and I'm going to be left out of all of these relationships that I've built. Being able to write them down breaks that fear cycle and gets those fears out of your head and onto a page. And it allows us to look at them a little bit more objectively. Labeling emotions is also a really good way to help calm the amygdala, so that part of the brain that is always on the lookout for signs of safety or danger. When you address your fears or just simply recognize them, it shows your brain that you're safe, that you survived. You actually looked at that fear and said, it's not something I want to happen. It's not something I hope ever does happen, but I did acknowledge it. I did consider it. And look, I'm actually okay. I survived. And that is all your brain cares about. And when you're able to do this, these fears start to lose their hold over you. Now, don't get me wrong, they will still be there and they will still keep coming up. But the more we are able to address our fears and look at them rather than pushing them away, the less they have control over you. So once we have been able to start verbalizing all of the things that we are fearful of, the next part of this is to then be able to create safety within the body. And safety within the physical body is something that I find a lot of us get wrong. This is where a lot of people start to try to rationalize their way out of fear. And they think, I need to go and talk to someone about this. And I'll come back to this in a minute, this idea of using talk therapy as a way to overcome fear and things that we're going through. But what is most important is that our brain recognizes that our body feels physically safe in this moment. So how do we do this? Isn't this the $1 million question? The first thing that we always need to be able to do is get present, because fear is about the future. Fear is looking at all of the worst case scenarios that haven't even happened. And all of this, when you are getting carried away with these endless thought spirals of fear, we are taken out of the present moment. But in the present moment, what are you doing? Are you driving? Are you going for a walk? Are you listening to this while you're in your kitchen? You are perfectly safe. And that is where we need to start. So the first thing we need to do is get present. And there are so many ways that you can do this. Again, this comes back to the toolkit, this little box of things that you can pull out when you need to get present. So for some of us, it might be just jumping up and down on the spot, shaking the body out a little bit. Maybe you want to get outside, go and feel the sun on your face, go for a brisk walk. Maybe you want to go and do some exercise, rub your hands together, take a few deep breaths, whatever it is, whatever helps to get you into the present moment. Know what works for you. So that immediate ability to know that you are safe in the place that you are right now is key. On top of that, though, we need these ongoing practices, sort of like these rituals, or not even rituals, but daily habits that we have, just like we clean our teeth every day, twice a day, hopefully. We would feel a bit weird if we didn't clean our teeth, like, oh, something just feels a little bit off. We need some tools to be able to use in that sense. And what those are, again, is going to be different for everyone. So for me, I need to have 10 minutes every day to meditate. And some days I drop into that place of meditation really easily and I feel so calm and grounded and everything feels good. Some days I can't switch off my brain for more than 3 seconds and I spend that 10 minutes just going loop, loop, loop of crazy thoughts and nothing seems to quiet down, and that it is what it is. But if I don't provide that space and time, I don't feel great and I feel like something is off. So knowing what you need, and it's going to be a little bit of trial and error, I think that the very best regulating tool that we all have available to us is walking. And especially if you can do this outdoors, that bilateral movement and being out in nature with fresh air and looking at greenery and trees, that is one of the most calming things that you can do for your nervous system. So prioritizing these things every single day and knowing that you're going to be able to move through this journey and stop this cycle of fear more easily if you have all of these tools in place. This is so crucial. This is why I do the work that I do, but we need to come back to this idea of trusting our bodies. And when we're constantly in this, I'm so scared of the future, I don't know what's next, I don't know what is around the corner, we lose all of that connection with our body. So I want you to be able to find that in any way that you possibly can. If you are anything like I was when I was trying to conceive, your pantry probably looks like a mini pharmacy. Bottles everywhere, checklists, have I taken this? And maybe just like me, you were waking up at 2 a.m. thinking, oh my goodness, did I forget to take my CoQ10 today? Well, that's why I was so excited to discover Overgold from Arxi. This is created by expert fertility nutritionists Stephanie and Monique. Overgold is a 5-in-1 preconception supplement that simplifies your routine. Just 2 capsules a day gives you the powerhouse antioxidants, CoQ10, alpha-lipoic acid, vitamins E and C, and the newest star on the scene, NAD+ precursors. Yep, all of that in just 2 capsules, not 10, not 12, or however many I was taking. No more rattling when you walk, just high quality, science-backed support for your reproductive health in the lead up to conception. And because the Arxi team are absolute legends, they are giving you $10 off your first order when you use the code GEN10. So head to FromArxi.com, that's ARXI, and use the code GEN10 to nail your preconception. Always read the label and follow directions for use. Overgold is not indicated for use in pregnancy or lactation. Do not take while on warfarin therapy without medical advice. Vitamin and mineral supplements should not replace a balanced diet. Something I've spoken about many times on this podcast, but in case you're a new listener, I want to remind you that you can't talk your way out of fear. You can't talk your way out of resolving a lot of the traumas of what you have been through. Yes, talking about them is very important and very valuable, but your body doesn't understand language or words. Your nervous system is still going to be triggered by things that aren't verbal. For example, seeing a pregnant person or driving past the clinic where you were told you'd lost your baby. I mean, none of these things are verbal, but your body remembers. And I'm sure you can relate to that. There are things that trigger you and you're like, but they didn't say anything. I don't know. Your body just has this reaction. And talk therapy is never going to get your body out of that, having that reaction. So this is where we need to find tools above and beyond talk therapy. And I think for me, the biggest thing that helped me was breath work and being able to use my breath to tap into some of those more difficult things that my body had been storing and holding on to for such a long time, for years. It was years that I started to let go of a lot of these things. But you're going to find what works for you. There are a lot of somatic therapies. Yoga is one of them. Meditation is another. EMDR, all of these amazing tools that we now know have such a wonderful impact on our body's ability to heal. So I encourage you to investigate some of those for yourself. If you're really finding that you are triggered and your body is going into this fear response, this survival state quite a lot, there are so many things that you can do to try and help yourself along the way. So just remind yourself of that. You can tell yourself all day long, like, remember the snake. There's nothing to fear. It's okay. But if there is a snake on your back seat, your body is going to be in that fear response. So know that your body is trying to tell you something and find ways to help address that. So other little tips that I want to mention for getting out of fear on more of a daily basis, limit what triggers you. If you know that there are things that trigger you, limit them. And even if it means driving a different way past, so you don't have to go past that fertility clinic on your way to work, just knowing the things that really set you off, whether it's putting boundaries on social media and being triggered by accounts and things that you see, or people that upset you, endless scrolling, constant need to ask ChatGPT about all your symptoms. We know that we don't feel good about any of these things. You never go on social media for an hour and just mindlessly scroll and afterwards say, I feel really good. That was a really good use of an hour. No, we know these things don't make us feel good. So I want you to be able to become aware of those things that do have the potential to trigger you and just limit them. And like I said, interactions with others as much as possible. And that's one of the hardest things to do because we don't want to upset people. We don't want to be putting ourselves in a position where we're impacting our relationships with others, but you honestly need to prioritize yourself. And that if that means this weekend you skip that event where everyone's going to be talking about, who's pregnant or the 1-year-old's birthday party coming up that everyone's going to, know that these things are okay to say no to. And I'm going to say this again. I feel like I say this every episode, but get enough sleep. Please just get enough sleep. It is just it is probably the best regulating tool that we have available to us. And it is hugely underestimated what sleep does for us. When we don't get enough sleep, we produce more and more cortisol. So you're already waking up on edge. So make it a priority. Get yourself into a routine that really supports getting a good night's sleep. Okay, so let's talk about things from more of a mindset or a spiritual side, which I find, as you well know, such a beautiful complement and balance to all of the sciencey things that we talk about as well. Fear comes from this place of trying to control the uncontrollable. So you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month, but your brain is going to go through all of the scenarios that it possibly can in order to make sure you are prepared. But when you do that, you disconnect yourself from your own intuition, from what is possible, and it disconnects you from staying in alignment with what you want and who you are. Go back and listen to an episode I did a few weeks ago on, I think it was called, There are 6 Mindset Shifts to Help You Through if you're struggling with infertility. I think that's a really good way to rewire a lot of these fears that we have that come up quite a lot. And one of the shifts that I mentioned on that episode was this being able to shift from what if it never happens into what if I'm actually being guided into what is the right timing for me. And that is a really, really hard thing to do because no one wants to acknowledge that perhaps, this month isn't the month that I should get pregnant because it'll be better if I got pregnant in 6 months' time. I mean, no, we want things to happen yesterday. And I get that. And I'm not saying that you have to get to a point where you look back at your journey and say, everything worked out perfectly for me. I think everything just fell into place at the exact right timing. And maybe you will. I would say the vast majority of my students are able to do that. And I am as well. I look back at my journey now and no, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but look what it brought me. Look where I am today. I would never in a million years have thought that I would end up creating a life and a business based around supporting others who are struggling. But here we are. So know that it's not that it's never going to happen, but it is more that it's going to happen on the timeline that is perfect for you. And I hope that that brings you a little bit of solace and you're able to look back from a place of bittersweet and know that it was unfolding in the way that it was meant to. I like to use affirmations, but a disclaimer, whenever we talk about affirmations, we need to do these from a place of regulation. We can't be super on edge or agitated or anxious and like, I trust my body. I'm going to, like, if you're coming from a place of dysregulation, affirmations are not going to do anything. And they're also not going to do anything if we're not finding these constant tools to help our bodies feel safe. So we need to be able to come into regulation before we use those affirmations. But they are a really wonderful tool. And I think there are so many. I mean, different affirmations are going to resonate differently for different people, but they're a wonderful way and a wonderful ritual to replace that fear with trust and to be able to come back to trusting your own body and your own journey. I'm going to expand that in in a minute. We'll go into that in just a little bit more detail. But I just want to come back to science very quickly as we're talking about manifesting, but using affirmations and visualization. Positive reframing actually rewires new neural pathways in your brain. So when you are able to remind yourself of the fact that, you are in the place that you're meant to be, that you're able to trust your body, trust your journey and the way that it's unfolding, it rewires and creates these new neural pathways in your brain so that the next time something difficult comes up, you are less likely to get triggered or fearful, and you are able to manage them a little bit more easily. So coming back to affirmations, and I think the more powerful part of an affirmation is the visualization part that goes through it. So an affirmation you could use: I am going to have the baby of my dreams by the end of next year. And maybe that's an affirmation that you want to remind yourself of, if that resonates for you. Or I am so excited to be able to tell my partner that I finally got that positive pregnancy test. But when we have these affirmations, we need to be able to connect them to our bodies, and that's where they become really powerful. So visualizing what happens when you say these affirmations or these things that you're wanting to come true, feel in your body what it will be like when they happen. That is where we really start to create change. And sort of find a place where you're able to spend some time doing this. So maybe you've only got a couple of minutes in the morning, but a nice exercise that I always loved to do was to sit down or lie down, get really comfortable, and have maybe have a whole list of things that you are dreaming about, but have a few that you come back to and you want to remind yourself of. And just feel in your body for at least 2 minutes a day how they are going to show up for you when they come true. And that is that link between the mind and the body. And that is where things become very, very powerful. If you are into journaling, this is something I talk about a lot on the podcast, and it might surprise you to know that I'm actually not a huge fan of journaling. I find it really hard to make myself do, but I do it often because it is so helpful. I find that when I do make the time, it really unlocks a lot for me, especially if I'm needing to make a difficult decision or if there's something that's really been bothering me. It is so helpful. So this is why I talk about it a lot, because as someone who is a bit resistant to doing it, I know how powerful it can be. So I have some journaling prompts that I want to offer you, and you can write these down, come back to them when you've got your journal out. The first one I want you to ask yourself is, what am I most afraid of on this journey? And the second is, if fear wasn't taking over, what would my next step look like? The next one is, what is one fear that I can release today? And once you've written all of those down, you can journal out whatever comes up. Like always, we don't want to think about them too much. You just want to put pen to paper, get all of those thoughts out. It doesn't matter if it's incoherent. It just needs to get out of your head and onto that piece of paper. I want you to imagine, if you have a few moments to sit with this and meditate around this, imagine that fear is something quite tangible. So maybe a dark cloud or like a dark ball of light or something that's just sort of sitting close to you or above you. And with each exhale, I want you to imagine that it drifts away just a little bit more and brings in and provides some space for more light, for more trust, for more certainty on this journey. So spend a few moments just allowing that fear to hold a physical shape or a physical presence. Watch as it drifts away and notice what takes its place as a result. So I hope that you have found this episode helpful. I want to do a little bit of a recap. So going through it, the first thing that we needed to do was to name our fears. The second was to create safety within the body. So what does that look like for you in the moment? And then I think more importantly, what does that look like for you ongoing? What are your daily regulating tools that you're adding to make your life a little bit easier. Then we go a little bit deeper and we start to work on our mindset and the more spiritual side. And that's where you want to create your affirmations, journal out some of the fears that you have, and really allow your body time to process things as you go. I use so many of these tools and guided meditations and breathwork exercises to help you get out of fear so much within so many of my fertility programs and courses that I offer. So know that this is something that you can use anytime on your journey as well. You can find links to all of those in the show notes here. Before we finish up, I just want to remind you, I know we said this at the beginning of the episode, but fear is normal and it doesn't have to lead the way. It doesn't have to be the basis of where you come from. There are so many ways that we can help navigate it. So I hope that you have found this episode helpful. If you have, I would love for you to leave a quick written review. If you have 30 seconds, no matter where you are listening or watching this, if you could leave a quick review or a comment, that would be incredible. It would mean the world to me. And it is also the best way to share this podcast with as many people as possible. Now, on the next episode, next week, we are talking about breaking the cycle of burnout when you are on the fertility journey, something that I think all of us have experienced at one point or another. So I can't wait to have you back with me next week. But until then, I am sending you all my wishes as you continue your own journey to fertility. The most common thing I hear from students who are on their fertility journey is that the stress of trying to conceive has taken over their life. Your days end up being filled with endless appointments, navigating pregnancy announcements. You're trying to eat right, take all your supplements, and it is all you think about from the moment you wake up. I designed the Element Fertility Yoga course to support your body, your mind, and your mental health in 3 important ways: to synchronize your hormones, increase circulation and blood flow, and to help regulate your nervous system. But on top of this, the greatest gift that you can give yourself throughout this journey is a sense of peace, to help you calm your mind and just make this process feel easier. Every single one of my students tell me that this is the first thing they notice after starting a yoga, meditation, and breathwork practice. But on top of this, you have the amazing benefit of actually supporting and increasing your fertility. Studies have shown that those participating in mind-body programs as they're trying to conceive have success rates 3 times greater than those who don't. The course I've designed walks you through natural conception as well as fertility treatments and IVF cycles. And the best part is you can work through it at your own pace in the comfort of your home. The practices start from just 10 minutes per day. To learn more, visit elementpilatesyoga.com or see the link in the show notes.